conversation as a part of the continued dialogue with the public about our views on the recently announced salary package for the political directorate. With me today I have the leader of the opposition, the member of parliament for South St. Andrew, MP Andrew Holness, who will make some remarks and then I will follow them.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Welcome everyone, members of the media. Since the announcement in Parliament by the Minister of Finance last week, Tuesday, of the increased salaries payable to ministers of government and members of Parliament, there has been a continuing furor and upheaval across the society. The opposition was not consulted by the government on the specifics of what was planned in terms of salary increases. We knew that there was going to be an adjustment. We had no idea what an adjustment would eventually be. So when it was announced on Tuesday, we were hearing it for the first time. The reality is that the increases that have been announced are unconscionably high in our context in Jamaica. They are out of whack with what the political directorate in other countries that are normally considered peers of ours in the region for how they pay their political directorate. Political directorate in Jamaica will now be significantly higher than them. They are also calculated by reference to the highest category in the highest band of the salary scale for the public service. No other public servants have been treated like that. All of the other public servants, including permanent secretaries, were assigned to the lower bands. No one was higher than the 4th out of 13 bands. But for the political directorate, the salaries have been fixed by reference to the highest category, category 13 in the highest of the bands. So there has been a departure from the way in which the rest of the public service was treated. In this context, we have called on the government, and I repeat the call, for this entire salary package arrangement for the political directorate to be rolled back, to be discontinued, and for the matter to be considered afresh by an independent panel that can look at this matter from the standpoint of ensuring equity across the public service, ensuring that the salaries that are determined are consistent with Jamaica's economic performance and Jamaica's economic reality, including the reality that people are hurting out there, people are suffering out there, and the way in which politicians are paid must take into account how people are living in this society today. I noticed and heard that the Prime Minister indicated that the list of increases would be adjusted to exclude the Prime Minister from the list. If he can roll it back for the Prime Minister, it can be rolled back for us all. And we are calling for that rollback. We have not yet received the salaries for this month or previously, the increases, and we would like that to be done. We would like that rollback to be done. It is not clear whether the Prime Minister, who is also a minister responsible for the portfolio of economic growth and job creation and the portfolio of defense, will be receiving the salary of a minister, having removed the Prime Minister's salary from the list of increases. That needs to be clarified because the public has a right to know. The reaction of the Prime Minister to this matter, the belated reaction, was entirely about trying to deflect the pressure, the mounting pressure that this issue and the outrage that this has caused has brought to him. But it is a mere gesture, a gimmick, to remove the Prime Minister from the list, while the ministers of government will continue to receive the massive increases that we and others in the society feel are not justified at this time. I think the entire society, or all well-meaning people and well-thinking people, would acknowledge that there should be some adjustment to the salaries of the political directorate, because when they were last set was several years ago, and there has been significant movement up in the cost of living since then. But the increase must be proportionate, it must be reasonable, it must be based on principles of equity across the public service, and it must be in keeping with Jamaica's place in terms of its economy and its economic performance relative to our peers across the region. In terms of my personal position, last week, Thursday I believe it was, we had a press conference and I announced that if it is not rolled back or otherwise suspended, and I receive the increase that they have allocated to me without any consultation with me or any other member of the opposition on this matter, I would be retaining only the minimum increase that all public servants were awarded of 20% over 2 years. And anything in excess of that, I would be redirecting to worthy causes, and I am intending to stick by that until this matter is satisfactorily resolved. And the equity issues, the outstanding issues that are causing demotivation in the public service among teachers, police officers, and many other categories of workers are resolved. We know that the issue of increments, which have been removed without consultation, is an issue, and there are many other issues as well. Not to mention the fact that the salaries are still not being paid on time in the amounts that have been agreed with them. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, this is a watershed moment for our country. Is the government, led by Andrew Holness, going to retain these massive increases for the political directorate in the face of widespread dissatisfaction and opposition, given where Jamaica is now and how our people are suffering? Is the political directorate going to look after itself in this way, or is it going to do the right thing, roll it back, and refer it to an independent panel of reputable persons who can consider the matter afresh and come up with a set of proposals that are rationally connected with where the country is now, how the people are suffering, equity in the public service, and Jamaica's economic performance relative to our peers? We're calling on the government to do the right thing, roll this thing back, and let us start afresh. Nothing less than that will be accepted by the people of Jamaica, including the opposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. So just to emphasize on some of the points that we're making, so people are fully aware as to what the position is of the People's National Party. When we speak to the issue of equity, the point we're making, we're using the documentation that is available to the unions and that the government has shared with us to show the band 15. And you can look and you will see the different salaries effective from the 1st of April 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. And the point that we're making is that within that band, you have 13 subcategories. And if you look at it, at subcategory 4, which is where the highest level that anybody has been placed in any of the bands, that's the highest level, including the permanent secretaries. So for 2024, the highest amount that the permanent secretary will be earning is $18,770,689. But where they have put the minister is way up at subcategory 12, which is $22,870,262. And then they have the $52 fee. So the view being communicated to the public, it is that the minister is $52 above the permanent secretary, but it is not so. The minister is actually $4 million ahead based on the subcategory that they've been placed, and then they've added the $52 too. And that information is right there if you look at it. Now that affects everything. It affects everything because every salary is a percentage of that salary. So the Prime Minister is at 25% above the salary of the minister. The Deputy Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition is at 12.5% above the salary of the minister. The State Minister is at 80% of the salary of the minister. And the Speaker is at the same salary as the minister. The Deputy Speaker is at 75% of the salary of the minister. And the Member of Parliament is at 62% of the salary of the minister. So you can imagine that had they carried out this exercise the same way in which they carried it out for all of the other public sector workers, the salary of the MP would be calculated at $4 million less, a percentage of $4 million less. Essentially, that salary for next year for a Member of Parliament, which is projected to be $14,180,000 roughly, would come down to $11,650,000. That would save the country just over $2.5 million per Member of Parliament. Now, we have done some rough calculations looking at what the savings would be for next year if they had pegged the minister's salary to where they had put all of the other public sector workers. And just for 2024 alone, the country would save $200 million. That's the difference that would happen if they had adjusted the salaries and not put it at the higher end. The second point to be made, if it is that you intend to put accountability measures in place to judge your ministers, how can you start them at the highest point? It simply means that there was no plan in place to have performance-based pay for ministers because you already started them at the highest point. It is going to take a permanent secretary 6 to 8 years for them to get to the upper band where the minister started. So where's the incentive for the minister to perform so they can earn more based on their performance? That was not contemplated. So these measures that the Prime Minister is speaking about, saying that he has had job descriptions from 2021. Why would the Prime Minister of the country have job descriptions from 2021 and not share them with the public? Why would you not put that out before you put out these unconscionable salaries? It is simple that you cannot trust the words of Andrew Holness. You dare not trust the words of Andrew Holness. It is the same man that told you that you'll be able to sleep with the windows and doors open. You can't trust that. It's the same man that said you would have fixed election dates. You can't trust that. It's the same man that said you would have an impeachment day. You can't trust that. And this is a pattern with the Prime Minister of the country. If it is that, the Prime Minister, we're told by the Minister of Information when we had our press conference that you cannot roll back the salaries. That's what we were told on Friday. He was speaking with Emily Shields on Radio Jamaica. He said you cannot roll back the salaries. The Prime Minister of the country now calls a press conference on Monday and says that he's asking them to remove his salary. If he can remove the salary of the Prime Minister, then we are suggesting that he remove the salary of all of the members of the political directorate, including our members. Remove it as well. That